Yeah, sounds good.
Oh, I can hear that now. Did you record that? Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Mon chéri, serre mon corps, embrasse-moi avec douceur, au rythme de la guitare. Tu es à moi, je suis à toi, l'amour est bon, viva la vida, l'amour est si bon. Mon chéri, serre mon corps, embrasse-moi avec douceur, au rythme de la guitare. Tu es à moi, je suis à toi, l'amour est bon, viva la vida, l'amour est si bon. Bolingo, la muisaka, bolingo, bolingo. Pesaka ne trouble bolingo, koki komi bosana, koki komi buma, koki pekoli moi. Yemba bolingo, elanguisaka bolingo, bolingo. Pesaka ne trouble bolingo, koki komi bosana, koki komi buma, koki pekoli moi. So I have to just turn this phone off.
I thought you'd have a more musical ringtone than that after all these years. Okay.
So hello Ed, and hello everybody.
Sorry, everybody.
My name is Mono.
Yeah, Clive, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm okay. How's things that side?
All good, man.
Yeah, great.
The phone just started ringing, so I put me out of my orbit. Could you guys hear me singing there with the phone? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, okay, guys.
That is sounding good.
All right, so let's get started. So, thanks so much to everyone for joining us. This is going to be the first of 8 sessions that we're running this week. So every day at UK time at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. So we'll be having today, starting with Newell and Mando teaching Indian guitar at 6 p.m. And then tomorrow we'll have Latin American guitar, desert guitar. And I'm sure you've all been receiving emails, so you can check out the full program, what we've got going on. So start with Newell. So Newell is kind of one of these musicians who I'd say is on a never-ending journey of studying, really. Obviously, he's from the west side of Congo, but unlike any other African guitarist I played with, and I've spent 20 years of my career working with a lot of great musicians, I've never met someone that really understands so many different styles of the world like Newell does, and his knowledge of classical music, flamenco, Irish traditional music, everything kind of combines, which really seems to me make it so clear the way he explains things. But he still travels back to Congo and carries on studying the stuff which he didn't know while he was living there, while he was growing up, because a lot of the music and techniques of the elders aren't necessarily passed on in the same way as they are in some other countries. And Newell says quite a lot about how finding a teacher is very difficult, and they have this kind of old sort of Van Halen style thing of turning around when you're doing your solos so people don't steal your techniques and steal your job at the end of the day. So he's kind of been on this constant quest of getting out into the villages, studying the old musicians that come from extreme rural areas and learning about different tunings and stuff like that. So thank you very much, Newell, for being here with us today, mate.
Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for joining in. Appreciate it.
So what we're going to start with, you're going to show us some of the great tribal styles, the different tribal styles in different areas of Congo.
Yeah. I was actually going to start. Okay, let me just put this. I wanted to start with because say about I just want to just emphasize what you said about learning. I'm always learning. I learned I started learning in Kinshasa, and I was always very interested in traditional music. Although Kinshasa and Congo in general is known for soukous and rumba, basically. When you talk about Congo musically, all people see is soukous and rumba, which is all mostly electric music. But if you can imagine, most traditional music, they don't have electric guitars, they don't have all that. So most of it is actually acoustic music. So I was always very interested. I went around in Kinshasa. Always, if I heard there was a traditional musician somewhere, I would go and try to pick, get whatever I could. And but also recently, like even in the rumba tradition, there's also like the rhythm guitar. I wanted to start from there, because the rhythm guitar style of Congo is actually very unique. I haven't, even as a musician, I haven't heard rhythm guitar style like that around the world. Because what's known is more the lead guitar, the high style. That's what people really associate with Congo when you hear Congolese music, is that the high style guitar. But rhythm guitar is very, very, very sophisticated stuff. Like I'll give an example, it's a style of guitaring where you'd find it more older bands. So it would have started with a Frieza, which would be Tabule's band, and a lot of OK jazz. It's nearly dying style. Playing like this when I was growing up, in the 90s, this would be old fashioned. This would be like old guys played. Why would you do that? Why would you play this kind of, I mean, there's a lot of it like
Maybe just bring the guitar up a little bit so we can see the
sorry.
fingers. Yeah.
I'll just do that. Because in the 90s, there was more younger bands like people like Kofi Olomide and Wenge. This style became more of an old style, and but personally, it's kind of saddens me because it's a very unique style. I haven't heard any guitar or part of the world playing like that, but it's sort of dying. So, but that style, who kind of started there would be Mike Amunan. He's not very well known because he's more of a, I mean, he plays live, but he's more of a studio kind of arranger. Oh, I can hear somebody play there. Who's that? That's Justin Adams.
I think that was Justin trying to steal some of your lines for him.
He's quick. That's good. That's the way it should be. So Mike Amunan, he's known and very well respected. He's an arranger and a studio engineer, but he played a lot of this style where it's very always two lines going on, like I'll give you an example. Like a younger style of playing this would be like. This will be like, younger people would play that same pattern, whereas an older guy would be. It speaks a lot, and it's always harder. You need to put more effort. So I just wanted to mention that guy, Micah, because he's actually a very, very important musician in Congolese music, who doesn't really get much credit, So that's first of all. So that's the first one I wanted to talk, because again, you play that with your fingers. Like if you were playing in that kind of style, nobody would allow you to play with your plectrum. So it's all fingerstyle playing, and it's always two parts going on at the same time. It's never like one part or. Like all this style, if you play like this to a young band or young people in Congo, this will be like, this is why you're doing this. It's old, So it's sort of a dying style that's going, which is a shame, I mean, I have tons of this. It's full of intervals. It's always like two guitars going on at the same time, and it's not really, especially outside of Congo, you don't hear that when you hear the whole band, because there's always so much going on. But that's what usually in those old bands, that's what the rhythm guitarist is doing.
So what are you doing on the right hand?
And on that, what I just played there. Yeah, well, like obviously I've changed, but like somebody like Dutuma Simaru, if he was playing like that, he'll have his kind of rest his thumb, there, and it's pretty much using those three fingers. That's. And it's all, there's no like, there's never like any stretching, you don't have to. Just the way you lift your finger, the way your fingers are, just that. You always did that curve, if you can see the fingers there. So you don't need any stretching like that. Just basically you put your fingers there and it's simple. You can see my fingers, just the same shape. Basically, pretty much these three fingers keep it, curved, and so that's pretty much it. Does that make any sense? Or is it just going?
Yeah, that's good. Nice. Why don't you show us, in a complete contrast to that, some of the Luba style?
Yeah, cool. That's a good one. The Luba, they're very interesting because they Luba music is pretty much the blues. It's really blues music, you know. Blues. When people say blues is from West Africa, it's like they don't really incorporate the whole picture, you know. Even though I might talk about this later on, but the Luba they play Mixolydian. This is the sound of the Luba. Mamua, mamatanga, mamua,
That is like a completely traditional Luba style.
Oh, completely. I mean, traditionally they use that when singing, especially because the thing about the Luba music is their main instrument is like marimba, and they have this drum.
Could you play a marimba line, an example of a marimba line on the guitar?
Yeah, the marimba would do. You know. But what the singing is going on. And then sometimes they like it's complete blues music. It's not, and sometimes even you would hear this extended note. Like that would be completely like. Like it's completely blues music. It's not even, you know, and because they have one drum though, there's a particular drum where it's constantly soloing over the vocals, and then that kind of gives it a more kind of wild, you know, wilder tone. But it's Luba music. This is the sound of a Luba.
Well, as the Luba tribe is obviously split between Congo, Angola, and Zambia, do you know about whether the Luba guitar styles in Angola and Zambia are going to be like that as well?
No, it's weird. It's completely different, you know, because they were always colonized by Portuguese, and it's the music there is very different. You know, I don't know why that happened.
But what about the melodies? Obviously, they'd still be singing in the same Luba dialect.
It still be the same, you know, sound. And it's slow. The clav of Luba is that. This is it. Pa 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 pa. And I'm even doing it fast because traditionally the Luba, they're the king and queens of like shaking your booty. That's their thing. You know, like they dance with their.
Are you going to give us an example of that?
I'm in Muyombe, so I have no idea. You know, we can't do that. For us, it's exotic. You know, it's just like, wow, look at them shaking their hips like that. It's really an art form because that's how you would you know, seduce a woman or a man. You're in circle dancing. The man would go. You know, the woman would be seduced depending on how you know how much they could shake their booty. So the music is very slow. but heavy. With that, you know. And it stays there forever. It's just constant. And all the singing is the most complex of it, because the singing is very, it's nearly like a rap, you know. It's just constant going on. It's not very melodic, very kind of rhythmic, you know, pattern after pattern after pattern. It's just constantly going on with a sort of heavy sort of, you know, like a lot of these drums, they would have like something rattling, you know, so it's kind of distorted. And yeah, their thing is really that, you know, you now in modern times, because 20 years ago, I think 25 years ago, this is one of the band I used to go to see. There's a band called Bayuda. They are from the Baluba, basically. They started playing that same music on the electric, you know, in the electric guitar, so they electrified it. So now you would find Baluba music with like with 145, for instance, you know. So it's whatever you want to say. It's as evolving or devolving, you know. It depends. But you would find now Luba bands who are using 145, 154 time, you know, chord progressions. But traditionally, Luba music is absolutely blues music. It stays on there. You know. This is the sound of a Luba, and it's a lot of singing. You will hear those kind of things. It's very much like that. You know, it's completely blues music.
Cool. Wonderful.
And then in contrast with that, like in my tribe as well in the West, we also have the blues. And this was my own discovery now, because growing up, you know, the sound of my tribe, I noticed when I started playing music, obviously, I noticed that, you know, wow, we sing with a lot of flat third, you know, in major though. That's the difference between Baluba. We sing with a flat third, but in major. So it's not a mixolydian. It's, you know, it's just you know, but mama yo yo yo, oh yeah 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 And so the music that I grew up with, like traditionally, my music is very melodic like that. It's in contrast to Baluba. Baluba music, you know, you can't really sing to it unless you're Luba, you know the language. But the music that I grew up with is more, you know, singing. You know, there's a lot of people would sing, and there's less dancing. There's no hit dancing. It's very much just a lot of singing. But the third is really very, very prevalent. You would always hear, Mama yo yo yo, Mama yo yo yo, Mama yo yo, Mama yo 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 yo, Mama ma pasa, ma. It never Mama ma pasa. They don't do that. Mama ma pasa. So I started wondering about this question. You know, it's been with me. I was like, why do they always sing like that? Especially the older generation, like my grandparents, my grandmother, even my mom. They could be singing a song in Lingala, it's fine. As soon as they sing in the language, which is Kiyombe, they always that, you know, that flat thirds come back, you know. And so I started wondering about that years ago. And 4 years ago, I know it must be, it was 2016. Is that 4 years now? Yeah, 4 years or 5 years or something. So I went back to the village to of my parents. So I met a guitarist then. He told me this, you know, this line. And I noticed instantly that he's also using the flat third, you know. Although the song is in G major, but he's not doing, you know, so I was like, wow, you know, that's that flat third that I always hear, you know, in songs, any song of a Bayumbi, you would always hear a flat third. So it's completely not major. So that sort of answered my question. So we also have the blues, had the blues, you know, somehow, you know, it's sort of just disappeared, but it's still there. You would hear it in the singing, you know, like in music I grew up with, there's a lot of choir, there's a lot of singing, there's always you know, Zolele kota, Zolele kota, Uzulu Giziwambe, Zolele kota. You see, like that, they would always have that. It will never be Zolele kota, Zolele kota, Muzulu kutu wangazambe, Mama menato, Musandu teni damo, Zolele mona meso. So they always had that sort of, you know, so and when that guitarist told me that, so then I was like, wow, we you know, we have the blues as well in you know, in my tribe, but you know, people have sort of missed out on that.
Well, that's interesting because you say obviously they're using the flat third, the minor third. And I know we've talked about this before, and we put that video on YouTube that talks about that we titled "What if the blues really came from Congo?" And because traditionally, a lot of scholars and musicians all over the world accredit the blues to West Africa and Mali due to the fact that a lot of the African slaves in America, in the southern states, the ones who came through Louisiana, the port of Louisiana, came from Mali, where there was 2/3 Bambara ethnic group, which is Mali. And through Louisiana, the next state on, you get to Mississippi, which everybody knows is where the Delta blues was developed. And I always think about how actually in Mali today, you know, they obviously have this very bluesy style. They have different influences, but the pentatonic scale that you traditionally hear in Mali doesn't have a minor third. You know, the first interval is a second. Okay. So they don't use the same. They use the same melodic scale, but starting on a different degree as they would when we think about the blues scale. The blues scale will always have a minor third. But in Mali, it doesn't. The scale that they use for blues. And however, in Congo, you're saying that you've always used that
always. I mean,
third. And I was thinking, you know, for you, you know, you as an African musician, me as an English musician, what the word blues means to us could, you know, it's going to be slightly different. But to, you know, what makes something blues to you?
Oh, it's the minor third, you know. It's having that, you know. It's that. It's basically that. And that's the sound you hear in the Luba music is completely blues music. And as I said, in my tribe, the difference is it's major. You know, it's instead of having the mixolydian, which is the fifth, in my tribe, it's just having major. It's really major over minor. So, do lele kota, you know, it's using do instead of do lele kota. This has been the question of my life since being a musician, since I learned about modes and understanding in the music theoretically. This has been always in my mind. Why do they always use that third? Because I grew up in a culture where that's how you sang. There's always a flat third. And so personally, I believe blues comes from the Congo. It's just, you know, they haven't worked it out, because it's really there. You know, I'd love one day to go and do some documentaries and just go to a choir, a Bayombe choir singing or the Luba singing. You would hear that instant flat, you know, flat third. I mean, sometimes they'll be doing a harmony, like I was listening to a recording where, again, and that, because it's modal, you know, they wouldn't really change keys, or so it just stays now. So, and there was two people singing. One was doing that, and the other guy was doing it. So you get.
Sounds a bit like Chuck Berry to me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you start going in that territory. It's clear. It's really there, you know. Because also you have to remember in Mali, they also have, like, you know, in West Africa, they have the Arabic influence as well, you know, which is we don't have any of that.
Well, a lot of that comes from the mosques and the prayer calls in the morning and those beaming out over loudspeakers.
But if you listen to those like early blues musicians of, you know, in America, they didn't have the Arabic, you know, influence. So, you know, I think the scholars, they obviously maybe it's up to me, or, you know, maybe get some funding somewhere and go do some more research on this. But I'm pretty sure. And just before I finish on this topic, the guitarist that I met who told me that he actually didn't teach me that in the standard tuning. It was actually completely different tuning. So that was another revelation. Even the reason I met him, because I was looking for somebody. I met an older musician. He was 80 years old, so he must be Pierre, his name. He was he's a musician, very good guitarist, but the difference is, this might take a few minutes to read for people to understand. I just want to make it very clear. So the music that I grew up thinking that is traditional music of my tribe, you call that Kintweni. But when I went to the village of my father, I found out, this was just 5 years ago, I found out that Kintweni is not actually traditional music to them, because Kintweni was the music of in the 50s and 60s, when people started going into Kinshasa, the musicians leaving the village going to Kinshasa, they started playing music with electric guitars. That is Kintweni. So it's like music, you know, it's like they selling out. You know, that's what people of the village thought. It's like, oh, they're selling out, you know, they're not, you know, so they started calling it Kintweni. So I found out from this elder musician that originally that music was played with a different tuning. I was like, oh, really? I've never heard about this, you know? So we said, we went around the village, looked, and then we found this guitarist who happened to be my brother-in-law. This was weird. We went around for a long time, you know, but we couldn't find anybody who knew about this tuning. But then he took my guitar. He hasn't played guitar in like years, you know, because he's like in his 60s. it detunes it to literally open tuning. You know, I don't want to detune it now. So to G, open G. Actually, maybe I should just do that. It started going down. You know, I was like, wow, this is what we've been looking for. He's never left the village. Like he's a proper villager, what we call a mbokatier. That's the term. And so he detuned it to open G like that, and then he started playing. You know, even that sound straight away smells like the food that I grew up smelling my grandmother's making. You know, it sounds totally different if I play on the standard tuning. It's that. So it turns out, way back when, you know, before people started going to the village, this is what the tuning that was played in my village. So at some stage, obviously, it got lost, and so that
have you got any other stuff you can play on that tuning? Because I pretty much only heard you playing Yamba Mapasa.
Oh, well, I know, but I
don't. How does it sound just to jam around so we can get a feel of that?
Well, I haven't. It's very bluesy. Very bluesy, you know. It's just like you start. I have piece that I'm working on. You know, I don't want to give people something, you know, but because I'm gonna record some music on that. Because, but as soon as I start playing it, I start feeling like Robert Johnson. You know, straight away I tap into that kind of world of like John Lee Hooker. Because it very much reminds me of those guys. Even here the resonance is totally different to what if you play the same thing on the open tuning, you know. So that was again a new revelation that I was never aware of, and so yeah, I'm working on pieces of music on this tuning because I was like, well, this is such a deep subject. I wanna take my time, you know, write, because it did give me some ideas, and I'm a Yombe myself. I know many songs. I know, you know, how the music of my tribe sound. So I'm gonna. Now you can hear, you know, it's very much like it sounded like old blues, you know, more than playing, you know, like you know, Malian music. Because as you say, Malian music for me is more Dorian than it is, you know, flat third. You know, they use more Dorian than flat third. You know, so so yeah, I mean, this is a whole different topic. As I'm saying, I'm writing stuff on this at the moment that I'm gonna record, and yeah, maybe there might be some questions here because I know it's a lot of I can see. Is there a possibility that
we'll get to those in a sec. I was just thinking what might be really useful, because in the course you're talking about the different intervals that people use in Congolese music, and thirds, sixths, and ninths, but especially the sixth that obviously Franco Luambo Macchiari is so famous for. As you said, he pretty much made his entire career from using that interval most of the time. I was just thinking it might be interesting if you could show us a fingerstyle on the fingerstyle guitar method, just on a simple 1-4-5-4 progression.
Yeah.
Keeping in the very much in the low end, in the rhythm guitar part, how would you use those intervals to make something that sounds distinctively Congolese?
Yeah, 1 second there. Yeah, Franco pretty much, he has there's a couple songs you'd see him playing something, single note, but he pretty much never did it. He's just pretty much. Sorry. Like there, it's basically what also I like people to know, to realize about, that music. It's very, very, they use all the mode, It's like all the notes, the scale of the mode. They will use all that because you can hear that. It basically goes 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is actually a famous song. Alobelaka moto likambo malamoko, bayeba likambo azaliko sala. Words also is very, I think people have to know that ultimately what makes it really Congolese is more to do with the accentuation, how it's blocked. Everything is blocked. You don't hear stuff like that. You don't really do like legato or like pull-offs and stuff like. Everything's like rhythmic. Is you attack. Like stuff like you would hear, them going out a bit, there's a famous actually. That's actually a very famous line. Like there, it goes to with the third. It's very rhythmic and it's very melodic all the time, you don't just do like crazy rounds, nobody's gonna dance to that. People are gonna be looking at you going, what the hell are you doing? That's another thing. This music, it's all about people to dance. So it's all about dancing. That's why I think you always have to have that, clear, it's not like playing the drums.
You only get that rhythmic feel with short notes. Obviously, when there's no space, everything's legato.
Yeah.
It might sound very nice and pleasant and orchestral, but there's no groove to it.
No. You need that, everything blocked, thirds, like there. You know, I'm alternating the thirds. Like Congolese music is more diatonic. You know, it's you use all the notes, very much like in classical music. You use it all. Like that's the most probably Congolese thing you can that. Like that's so Congolese to me, you know. It's Franco did this all. This was his thing, you know. That's it. Yeah. Ah. Come on, say A.
Ah.
Yeah. Ah. Yeah. Ah. You see, every note is like you know, it's pretty much like it's more rhythmic like that. Yeah, so that's with the sixth. Again, sixth is something nearly dying. You know, it's young people now who don't hardly ever use it. Even me, like most guitarists of my same generation wouldn't even really play six like I do. It's very specific. You know, you'll be looking for somebody who's good at doing that because it's older people did it. Young people didn't really learn it because it was in the 90s especially. Thirds was the thing. You know. That. It became more like that. You won't really do it. You can hear this. It's a little bit different sound. So playing six like that is, you know, not for most. You'll find a lot of Congolese guitarists and probably, you know, younger than me. They probably wouldn't really be comfortable playing it because, you know, it's something that it's kind of, you know, it's dying, which is a shame, you know.
Interesting how the sound of an interval can be popular, and it's like obviously music changes over time. Some people prefer the sound of like an electric drum kit to a regular kit, or people start using autotune. But interesting how people would use a different interval at a different period in time. And Tim, your old friend Tim Llewellyn is asking, what about the 10th?
Yeah, tenths is a good one. That's used. That's a lot in the in the rhythm guitar. You know. But it was used a lot, you know, in the rhythm guitar. Some lead guitar as well, you know, they might use it, but not, you know, it was used more. You know, stuff like. That turns there. Maybe, you know, I don't know if you know, everybody would understand, but it's basically the distance between the two notes I'm playing, you know. I have two notes there. There's from there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's why it's tenths. Sorry. all these kind of styles are dying style. You won't hear all these young bands playing like this. It's yeah, that's a good one, Tim. It's but it was more, I mean, there's a that's one of the only 10th sort of a lead guitar I've heard, which was played by one of my favorites of the style, Roxy Chimpaka. He does that. He's using 10th there. But it's unfortunately all these kind of things are dying. You see, the thing is, everything is getting sort of simpler. I'm so against that mindset. People saying, "Oh, simple, simple, simple." I think that's what's killing music. People don't realize. I don't think music should be simple, because especially for me, when I look at Congolese music, the golden age of Congolese music is when guitaring was really hard. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, this was like, there's no, I mean, some of the lines I still can play them even as a professional musician today. But people used to dance to those lines, all night. But today you get, those kind of simple, people don't dance as much. Even people complaining that the music is not as good as it used to be. I think that's because you're just simplifying things too much. Like that. I can never really play this line properly because it's so awkward, See, I can't. I feel so embarrassed now. It's a line from Dino Vangu. He's one of the greats. He played in Afriza, but he was, he's.
Just maybe bring your guitar up a little bit. Got you off the bottom.
He's doing the 10th. He's mixed the 10th and the 3rd, then 3rd. I cannot do it slow, but they're doing it kind of fast, and but yeah, you don't hear lines like that anymore. Now these days you hear. I love it as well, but as a musician, I know it's a drop. But I love it because I grew up really with that. This is the sound of my youth, so it's kind of nostalgic, and the only difference is definitely groovier because it's slower, and so the tempo gets more much. Whereas the older style would be. It's faster. You see, again, it's faster. There's more to do on the guitar. But people used to dance all night, So things don't have to be simple, I think.
Now the club closes at 11 p.m.
There you go.
Yeah, and you just need 3 chords.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm sure.
Good question, Tim.
I'm sure plenty of you have got a lot of questions for Newell. I can see some of you guys have got your guitars there. I'm going to open that in a second. What I'm just going to do for some of you who've not, who haven't enrolled in this course specifically, which is a tribal fingerstyle guitar, I just want to show you a little bit of what's inside, as we saw someone in the chat was asking about tabs and notation. So I'm just going to play this for you here.
So like that's from here, from so. So F, basically F major, then D minor, then D minor into C, but
So there's all kind of features that are included with the course, and you can even there's a way here we can even get you to, you can loop a bar, play it over again, or change the sound into MIDI, where you can loop it and change the tempo and things like that. So we've got all these kind of features. If you want to really slow it down, or to have the notes shown for you there on a fretboard or on a keyboard. So just a little bit of example. So that's the Tribal Fingerstyle course, which is one of Newell's 2 courses that he's got up on the site right now. But so there's Newell, we had a question first I want to get to that's live YouTube, which is just asking if you could explain Mu-composite.
Okay. Such a shame I don't have Mu-composite here. Mu-composite is based pretty much, instead of the D, the string of D, you put an E instead, and you just tune it as high as the E. So it has a very shiny sound. It would sound like, instead of it'd be, that's pretty much it. I don't really know if this story is true, but I heard that it was a guy who was playing a gig. He broke a string, D string, and he didn't have a string, the D string. He just replaced it with an E. So basically, pretty much the E, you replace the D with the E, and you just tune it the same as a high E. That's pretty much Mu-composite, and it's become a style. That's a shame, because I know many, they wouldn't really make sense. Stuff like this. We used to play like something like that on a Mu-composite would sound like angel, and angelic, because we actually had I used to play with a singer, and we had a whole set of Mu-composite. So I have a lot of lines with it, but maybe next time I would prepare a Mu-composite guitar to give you an idea.
Great. And Maxwell on the chat is just asking about the kind of guitar you've got. He says it looks like you're playing a crossover guitar. Is it easier to use than a regular nylon string?
No, it's just the same. This is it has the cutaway here. It's a Taylor, but I also have a regular nylon there. It's no, I think it's just the same. I think guitar is just guitar, really. They're all just guitars. I don't mind. I'm flexible.
Great.
But this is a nylon, a cutaway.
Asked me about my bass, and it's like I've had the same one since I was 13, so I can't exactly give any information on it's just a 4-string bass. That's what you do with it.
That's exactly,
Great. So we've got time if any of you want to jump in, unmute yourself. If you've got anything you'd like to ask Newell about the course, about some of these guitar styles, some of the different tribal approaches, or Congolese music, or the blues, just go ahead. You always get this little silence first, waiting to see who is.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. I did try and type it about you touched on the business about tenths. I'm glad you got to that, and you said, and then the examples you had with mixing the thirds and the sixths. That's really where it's at for me. Just for a long time, it's just something I'm never getting closer to understanding it a bit, but
well, you know what's there actually, if you slow it down, this is because I play a lot of counterpoint music. I do that, but one of the inspiration from that came actually from that mix of the intervals, so switching between different intervals, it gives you a counterpoint without knowing. So like turns and thirds would sound like. It's like Baroque music.
Yes, my memories of O-level music are quite faint, but it does remind me a bit of that. Yeah. So
Sorry.
you didn't get Ed got it, but yeah. I learned some of this when I was at school, but it's long gone, unfortunately.
But that's the thing. You hear that in Congolese music. Yes,
it's very, very powerful.
That.
They're very powerful intervals, I find.
Yeah.
It's been helping me with my health quite a lot, practicing 10 scales.
Yeah, they're great. Because also
I've got 10 scales that go all the way from the bottom to the top of the fretboard, which should really helping a lot.
There's this line from the same guy. I think he's probably the one who does it a lot. He makes a different interval. Dino Vango, he plays fifths. Then he goes, when he goes up high, he goes with the sixth. So
you play the same melody, but with different
intervals. He does it a lot. So. Yeah. You see, like that. That's really hard to play. It's not easy. Even it's not easy at all. You have to really. You can't just. If you haven't played for a few days, you can't just go in concert and be good at it.
But if you do play it, you make quite a strong, powerful sound, much more powerful than just playing. Yeah.
Exactly. Then it goes high.
But if it's wrong, it sounds really awful.
That's it, yeah. Or like Roxy will do like start with octave.
Yeah, that guy makes me crazy when he plays sometimes. Yeah. So.
Then he goes to fourth. Into sixth. You see what I mean? So they're constantly switching between different intervals.
So you're giving different flavor to the same melody, basically.
Yeah. But if you slow it down, it's very much that's the same thing that's happening in Baroque music. Because Baroque
music, but you can't play that slow. If you try and play it slow, you lose the vibe. It's,
well, that's it. But that's what I mean. You can only notice that when you go. So you start hearing all these, sort of counterpoints that you wouldn't hear when it's fast.
Cool. Right. Well, I'm on a roll. Can we step back to the thing about the flat and third?
Okay.
And the Congo and the blues and the Chuck Berry thing I found was especially interesting, but it's something I've been doing recently. I've got stuff that are like Malian stuff. I got some tunes that I developed watching Verfagaturi actually, but I've been recently playing around with them in sixths, and it's quite ambiguous when you get into the sixths, isn't it?
Say that again. Sorry.
Playing the flat and third and sixth. I mean, it's something you get in blues a lot, isn't it? You get in blues and blues rock, you get the flat and third over the major chords.
Yeah.
But also, back when I was young, my first guitar lesson was something on blues lead guitar, and it was about six, and you had to change the scale you play. So say when you're playing, say in G, you play a G6 scale over the G, and then when you move to the C, you play a C6 scale. So
okay.
It's related a bit to the flat and third stuff, and sometimes it's funny, against different chords in a riff, you play a different sixth scale. So I'm not explaining myself.
Yeah, maybe I don't really understand properly. I mean,
okay, let's move on.
What I was saying is that there's always that there's that going on all the time.
Yeah, I can't do that, unfortunately. But yeah, I see what you're doing.
But there's, it's that's the sound of my tribe, pretty much that. major.
very interesting, but I'm sure, yeah. This whole business about the origins of blues being in Congo, very interesting.
I think. Nolele kota, that's the famous one. Nolele kota, tuzulu kubu wanganzame. You can hear it's major, but my mom and I told.
It's got a blue note in it. Yeah.
So it's always like that. You would hear any Yombe singing that song, even if they grew up in Kinshasa, not in the village. It's always the flat third is always there.
And no real chord changes as well. You mentioned that, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's been my question of me as a musician, trying to wonder why was that. So when that guitarist told me that pattern with the flat third, then I was like, oh, because
I've been trying to practice that riff actually. It's just I'm just about okay.
Because you should have done it.
Newell, I think we're going to run out of time if we.
I'm going to mute myself now. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Tim.
I'll let somebody else get
in. Sammy in the chat is asking about Congolese rumba. Obviously, a pretty big topic. Maybe we could just sum it up in as briefly as you could.
Well, if I have to sum up Congolese rumba, there's really one guitar I'll play. I think there's also a lesson of that on the website. This will be. This is our version of, this is what you play the first. This is every guitarist you play this, and it's Congolese rumba. That's Congolese rumba in a nutshell. It's 1-4-5, 99% of the time, and that's what everybody follows, and that's coming from. Basically, it's the influence of El Manicero and songs like La Bamba. Because Cuban music is massively influenced in Congolese popular music, what we call even rumba. Rumba is not a Congolese word. It's not. Rumba is. We even spell it wrong. We spell it R-U-M-B-A instead of R-H-U-M-B-A. So, but then in within that, you've got basically two schools. You've got the African jazz, which was Grand Calais, which he was very much rumba. He used the montuno. You will really hear lot of Cuban influence. But then Franco, then we've got the Oke jazz, which he was more Congolese. So there's that too. They call that Odemba. Odemba is really. This is Congolese music today in a nutshell. Basically, popular Congolese music is 1-4-5.
Cool.
Thanks, Sammy.
Fantastic. So, Sammy, that's actually, if I just show you very briefly, at the very start of the course, Introduction to Rumba Music, we basically cover that song and tabulate which is one of the artists that.
Yeah, it's his song very much. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just show you from here. Yeah, that's great. So I've got a question. Sounds like a technical harmonic question from DL Winter. Do you want to? I didn't quite understand what you said in the chat. Do you want to just maybe unmute yourself and jump in there?
Oh, well, it was he used the minor, which is beautiful in over the major. Just the question how it relates to the minor, melodic minor, which is actually the same scale. Instead of using the third, using the minor in a major scale.
So how it relates to the melodic minor?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you,
It's
it's
how
I
hear it. In English.
Yeah, it's a, if you want to play the mode, over that, you would play, because they know, as I said, the Luba, they use the mixolydian.
Yeah.
So it's very much, but if you're not using the mixolydian, which is the major, so it will be, the scale will be, it's a melodic minor scale.
Yeah.
That's basically, you're entering kind of jazz, in modern
jazz.
jazz.
Yeah, it's it's alternate jazz scale.
Yeah, completely, yeah. This is entering.
So that's how it sounds. The way you play it is like the old jazz runs, but
exactly.
That kind of complete the blues or connection to the blues and the jazz there.
Yes, because in jazz usually, like that's a.
Yeah, we use it as an overtone scale.
Exactly, like if I was playing in this might get a bit too
okay
here.
okay, maybe
but
too technical, but okay.
Too technical, but it's good to talk about. Like if I was like in E flat, major, like doing that melodic minor in G.
Yeah.
It gives you that. It gives you that. Sorry, I'm playing it. So in D actually. Sorry, in D. Give you that.
Yeah, the alternate sound.
Yeah.
It's the same, but that's why it sounds the way you sing the lines, the balua. It's exactly the line.
Yes, it is very much like that. That's the you see. That's why I'm saying it's only when I became a musician, started understanding about harmony and stuff. I realized, wow, there's way more into this music, that's people think about. People just think, oh, they're just singing this happy, songs, but the overtones, there's way more going on. Because if you think about it, even all these instruments that they play, those traditional instruments, they're not diatonic, they're not perfect,
No.
They're not temperament tuning. They always have all these overtones that if you hear, you mix it all, that's what gives it that, that flavor, those traditional music. Those overtones give that music the flavor. It's not perfectly, temperament tuning like piano music. It's those marimba. They would always have something distorting in it, and it gives it, something rattling, and so there's always this lot of overtones.
So to me, that's the beauty of the music.
Yeah. That's it. You see, as I say, just growing up as a kid, it just sounded normal. That's just the music. But only as a musician, I started wondering about these things. Then I started to realize, oh, that, because even the Luba, as I said, they would bring that. You know what I mean? So there's way more going on than just the actual, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that makes sense.
No, that is well. I mean, it was just to clarify.
Great.
Because I hear that like the similarity in a way. Also
Yeah, definitely. You're right.
In the lines that you were singing.
You're definitely right. It's there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Yes, go for it, Tim.
Can I just join in, because you touched on something there that was quite interesting, the business about the different harmonic variations. And I find sometimes in life, some of the soukous people do often, is they'll play say you're playing 1 4 5 4, and you're playing a question on the 1, an answer on the 4, a question again on the 5, and an answer on the 4. But if you play the answer on different strings, same harmony, that seems that gives something something that I think the soukous people use a lot.
Like an answer, what do you mean answer on the 4? I didn't really get that.
Well, the way I've looked at it, learning is the blues that always comes out of questions and answers.
Yeah.
So you build up tension with the question, and then you release it with the answer. And the 1 4 5 4, or it can be 1 5 4 5.
Yeah.
You break it down into questions and answers. So you've got a riff, you play the first half of the riff, and you've got the answer. And often that comes on. If you're 1 4 5 4, the question is the 1, the answer is the 4. The question
I see what you mean.
5. So you've got 2 questions and answers. It's very simplified, you know.
Yeah.
It's just the way I try and look at it. And if you play the answer in the same melody but on different strings, so you might play it across the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The E, the B, and the G, and then you might play it again with the B, the G, and the D, and you get different resonances. This is what you're talking about a little bit, because it's not a tempered tuning instrument.
Yeah, but that's it. You see. Yeah, I know what you mean. So quite often, you play something on the high, like this is in soukous style or rumba. You play something, higher. Is that what you mean? Like you go down, playing down there, the same thing?
Yeah, but so you can play. You could play the same. Well, you haven't got an electric guitar, so you haven't got enough frets. But you could play that same high riff, a string lower, in a way.
I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. Then it sounds different. That's true. Yeah. Okay.
You see what I mean? Yeah. You can use both of them. You can play it an octave lower on different fingerings to give different tensions or different feels.
I see what you mean. No, I think what I meant about the overtones in the traditional music is it's really. It's more than just the 12 notes of the guitar. There's the overtones.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. They have different harmonics. Whatever. Those kind of harmonics, they're there in those traditional music because they're not temperament tuning. They're not perfect. Do re mi fa sol.
When you get into electrics, you get into all the amp, what's going on with the amps as well. And then,
and now these days, exactly, they plug in like likembe, which we call likembe, is one of those. If you find any, but sometimes you see people playing like perfect, temperament. It is like chromatic likembe. Traditionally, you don't find that. It's always. It's not perfect,
Well, I've actually got a thing called an auto-tune guitar, which I don't use as much as I should do, really, which claims to correct for all that, which is rather interesting, but rather strange as well.
That sounds like cheating to me, Tim.
That's just like
I need as much help as I can. The physical state my body's in. This is, and it's some of the stuff I recorded with it isn't too bad. But anyway, that's a total diversion. I'll let you get back. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Nice one, mate. Great. Anything else anyone would like to ask Newell? So we've got a few students here from the course.
Well, you know, this is this is another style I didn't even mention. This is like the style of, you know, they're the speed guys. They're like.
This is the Luba people still.
No, this is Manyanga. They're always, you know, fast. Dengira samuka bakakibukila fweni tatumano zengo mutu fweni dengira samuka bakakibukila fweni tatumano zengo, like you could hear mutu fweni zengi tatumano zengo. They're actually, we call them uncle. They're also in the West, so they're like the next village to my village. So the only difference is they're fast. But you know, my village, we're kind of the slow guys. But this is, I love their music because at least, you know, it's going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mutu faini dengila samuka bakaki bukila fweni zaratulali. Kangala butola pundu mama, kangala butola pundu. Nani kangala butola pundu mama, kangala butola. Mutu fweni dengira samuka bakaki bukila fweni zaratu maluzengu. Hey, That's, you know, some music of the Manyanga there, because I didn't mention them. Because I mean, there's a lot, you know.
Would you say, because their music obviously sounds quite different than what you've played so far, we've talked a bit about how some of the different ethnic groups and tribes of Congo are known for different, like, stereotypical characteristics, which also comes out in their music making. Like you talk about the Bayombe being very much known as a calm, peaceful people, which is reflected in the music. In the north, the Bangala are the crazy warriors.
Yeah.
And that's why their music sounds very contrasting to the Bayumbe. So what about the Manyanga?
Yeah,
I wonder if that relates to how
it does. Yeah,
to us sounds.
They're not as gentle as us. They're, you know, they're kind of wilder than, they're not like the people of the north. You know, like people of the north, they're really. I was just actually listening to I was watching a documentary on one of the chief, you know, of one of the tribe called Bantomba. He was saying, like, in there, you know, there in the north, you know, fighting with hands, there's no point with that. You have to fight with like swords, and if you fight, somebody has to go to the hospital, the other one goes to jail. That's the rule of, you know, it's there's no middle ground. But they're really, really wild, and you hear that in their music, because their music is shouting, mama, and it's very, you know, vulgar. You know, their music is not, you know, growing up, there was like this is a cool thing we used to do, but this is later on. But growing up in Kinshasa, when there was like a funeral of somebody from the north, like my mother would not let us out. You can't go out because it is so vulgar. You know, they're very, very openly sexual, and they're like crazy. There's always fights, and what they would sing about, you know, for my parents, like but Congo are kind of reserved people. It'll be like, it's like sacrilege, you know. But we used to do, when I became a musician, the interesting thing about the people of the north, they're so passionate. You know, when they cry, it's unbelievably musical. It's incredible. And you know, when they cry together, you know, because they do the minor, you know. that they really have the minor going on, you know, and they cry in minor for some reason, I don't know. And so if the funeral of people from the north was like our gig, we used to just can't wait to go to. Hey, this is myself and a friend. We started. Sounds kind of cynical, but this is what we did to just go and hear them cry. This is unbelievably. It's really, I'm not doing it justice, you know, but it's that sort of thing. It's ongoing. Because they're very passionate people, you know, and when there's like 5 and 10 of them doing that at the same time, it's really, it's you know, we used to just go to just hear that. That's kind of cynical, but we did that.
Fantastic. So Gregory is asking, even if the music is mostly modal, are there any standard modulations?
No, like you don't modulate. You know, if maybe, you know, when there's like drumming, there's no, you know, like any pitch going, you know, people mod, but there's no like intentional modulation. No, because, you know, those instruments are not chromatic. You just stay in one key. Most it's all modal. Apart from, you know, like if you go to West, it's diatonic. You know, they're using all the scale, but usually most music has that, just like the singing off a sound. So there's no intentional modulation or anything like that. They also, but Sakata, you know, they play. If I play this to you, you would say this is flamenco. I had such a one of the most amazing experience. That time I went to 4 years ago. I went to the village of my father. So we were by the river, Congo River, just, you know, few kilometers before it goes into the sea there. So you can see the sea. And then so there's this guy, because this is my composition. So I just composed this, you know, and so I started playing this. There was a guy, he was on wheelchair, and he nearly stood up. This guy, he started saying, "Oh my God, where did you learn this music?" I was like, you know, this is just a composition I have, no big deal. He said, "This is the music of my tribe, which is Basakata." You see, then I realized, you know, Basakata used to be one of the, you know, the groups I used to go to watch when I was younger, you know, because this was really my thing. You know, any time I heard any group, traditional group rehearsal, I'll just go watch. I wouldn't ask, I'll just stand there and watch them. But you see, stuff like that, if I play it to people, people would instantly think it's flamenco influenced, but it's actually nothing at all. You would hear them, they use that. They actually have that chenga 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 and chenga. Obviously, wouldn't be as, you know. That's how they play. You know what I mean? So that's just one of the, you know, hidden music. That's what I call them, the whole hidden music of Congo. People outside don't really realize.
In 5/4, that last bit.
Yeah. 5/4. You you know.
I've
So
never
yeah,
heard African music in 5/4. I mean, I don't know a lot about North African music, but Sub-Saharan, I've never heard that time signature.
there is, yeah, there's also 9/8. We haven't even, you know, there's the 9/8.
What about your song Yoka? That's not in a time signature, is it, or is it in a multitude?
This is 9/8. It's basically very much. I don't know if I could count and play it. 1, 2. The clap is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 9/4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mia galata bawa, molopwe. Bila mama de follow the bunda, na eli sintunda, mulingatumba. Alo belangonza, kalate kudunda yo. That's a 9. While Yoka is a different story. Yoka is more. There's no timing. It's just, but it's the pattern. I basically stole from a pygmy guy. You know, did something to it. Tombo la matata la viso. Dala mapate koko na mabile. Kanga miso ponga la batoye. Ayoka, beyoka. Oyoka. Misto fonga la matoye. So I met this guy. This is when I was 16, and it was incredible, just doing stuff like that. And again, this was a classic African guy where, you know, he wouldn't teach you. He's just like, you know, trying to just hide what he's doing. And but it was a constant, this kind of pattern that has no beat, but it's a constant. It's still very regular, you know. So I got it because back then I had pretty good memory. I hope I don't think it's still there. It's kind of gone. Too much. Have to pay rent and stuff. But sometimes people think like it's literally the same pattern, but I can't tell what time signature is. So it's just stuff, you know. The main part.
although it might be seemingly impossible to transcribe that part, it'd be great if we could teach that in a future course.
Yeah, it'd be great. I think this is just, I don't, you know, could just play. I don't, yeah, I wouldn't trust. I would just teach like this. It would make more sense.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, Newell, thanks so much, mate. I mean, that's been pretty insightful for me. So I'm sure it has for a lot of the guys involved watching on YouTube and on Zoom as well. So I'm just in the chat there. I'm going to drop a link to Newell's course, Tribal Fingerstyle Guitar, where he teaches about all of these concepts, and there are other resources that come with the lessons as well. So we're just going to take a break for about 15 minutes, and at 6 o'clock, I'm going to leave this room open because at 6 o'clock with Fernando Perez, he's going to be teaching about Indian approaches to guitar and slide guitar. And there'll be sessions every day this week at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Tomorrow, we've got the great Camilo Menjura there. I can see him getting warmed up in the background already.
I can't wait. Oh, great.
4 o'clock, and he'll be teaching about Latin American folk styles, followed by Justin Adams at 6 p.m., who'll be demonstrating some North African styles and bits of grooves that he learned along his travels in the Sahara, and with some of the great musicians that he's played with and met all over the world. And yeah, there'll be sessions all week. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And there'll be this will be recorded, and a repeat will be posted and made available to stream within the course if you've enrolled in the fingerstyle session. So yeah, thanks to all of you for your questions and for joining us. And thank you very much, Newell.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Wonderful.
Cool.